Welcome to the Nest Podcast, your weekly home for sports news, video game reviews, and hot takes with your hosts, Brandon, Zach, and Justin. Enjoy the show.
What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Nest Podcast. This is episode number 91, the Dennis Rodman episode. Of course, it's the Dennis Rodman episode right now, presented by Sportszilla. I'm your host, Brandon. Joining me are my co-hosts, Zach and Justin. Fellas, what's going on there in quarantine land, USA?
Same old shit.
Same old shit. Nothing special going on in Missouri. Are they starting to lift restrictions where you are?
They are in my area, except for the city of St. Louis and the surrounding county. I live in a different county, so we're opening up. I haven't ventured out really. But apparently like restaurants and stuff like that can start having inside guests, and they have limitations to that. Like the tables have to be 6 feet apart. They have a certain amount of guests that they can have and stuff like that. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. And what's going on there in Tennessee, Justin?
It's about the same. I actually went to the boxing gym today.
How are things looking over there?
They're all right. We opened it up for competitors. I'm not ready to let Trenton start back yet. I'll let him go in with his mask, and see everybody. We stay for about 30 minutes or so.
Okay.
As far as restaurants, I went by the other day at Chili's to get something to go in the parking lot, and that and Cheddar's was just jam packed. So, I mean, I have a feeling this is going to last maybe 2 weeks, and then we're going to be right back where we started. I mean, everybody's just going all out at once. It's crazy.
Another weird piece of news that came out of Missouri, and this was on the other side of the state near Kansas City. Apparently there's a meat packing plant over there, and they had something like 300 plus coronavirus positive tests. Oh. And apparently every single one of them were asymptomatic. So I don't know what that entails for, like, are they going to shut down or whatever? But yeah, I mean, you could definitely see a resurge of cases when all this opens back up.
That makes me think, oh no, what about contaminated meat? Like, what, all the meats from those areas are going to have to be destroyed, or it's going to be further spreading it to these people. So
yeah,
like that's just tons and tons and tons of meat that's being wasted, that's not being able to be consumed. Most of it's probably good to go, fine, but some of it may be bad, and it's going to possibly lead into a shortage nationally.
Yeah, I've heard of that too. Have you heard of the Smithfields factory? I can't remember where, Georgia maybe, and they've had just a huge outbreak of COVID cases, and they don't have the staff to facilitate all the needs of that factory and stuff like that. So apparently there could be a shortage coming.
Wow, that's terrible. I mean, we're all living in it together. We're all trying to survive it. Here in Florida, it's just like you guys were saying, it's getting back to normal. I'm fortunately still working from home, but I can sense that the end of that is coming to a conclusion. There are emails floating around that's hinting at, like, okay, yeah, we're going to have you fuckers come back pretty damn soon.
Yeah, but I wonder if you'll just be right back at home if a resurgence comes around.
I don't know. Will they even choose to close down a second time, or would they wait longer because they had the reaction the first time, and then they were like, oh well, nothing really came of it, so no big deal. Next time they're not going to take the same action, so you're going to have more and more companies that are stubborn.
Yeah.
And that therefore more and more people are going to end up suffering. I don't know. I agree with you guys. I think we'll be back pretty much square one, but it's just a matter of time when we get there.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people aren't going to take it seriously because they just so happen to not get sick or whatever like that. They don't know anyone that's sick. So I was fine last time. This is all a big joke or whatever it might be.
Absolutely. My day actually started today with my son, who is 4, coming up to me and loving up on me. And I'm like, motherfucker, did you just spray the COVID on me?
That's lovely.
He mixed a little bit of my Mountain Dew with his milk from his cereal, and it kind of upset his stomach.
Yeah.
So lessons learned from a 4-year-old, but I was like, this little asshole. Anyway, you guys catch what everybody's talking about and what everybody was watching last night, and the world has been talking about this Michael Jordan documentary, wrapping it up and dropping some amazing knowledge on us. Zach, I know you're paying attention to it. You were watching it as it was all unfolding. What did you think of these last 2 episodes?
Yeah, they were pretty good. The first one, in my opinion, was a little bit better. It went into a little bit more detail of Jordan and stuff like that. And I think the main thing that struck me was just his distaste for the pressure put on him, and in particular to be a role model. Everyone wanted him to be this person that, you know, people could look up to and stuff like that. And all he wanted to do was just play the game and be the best that he could. And he never really signed up to be a political speaker or an advocate or anything like that. And he took backlash for that, especially with that case in North Carolina with I think it was senator or governor or something like that. An African-American was in the running, and Jordan didn't endorse him, and people kind of had a bad taste in their mouth for him after that. And, you know, it just goes to show that, in my opinion, too much is put on athletes to be these big, huge role models that do no wrong and are just holier than thou, when in reality, they're just playing a sport, and they're playing it at a very high level. And because kids want to do that doesn't mean that they're automatically role models.
You know, you talk about all of the pressure and all of the attention that guys like Jordan would get. Imagine that today with Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff following them. No wonder guys have it, you know, a lot different now. They can't do a lot of the things so publicly that they used to do. To that extent, I would say that guys like LeBron have it a little bit harder.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're followed around by TMZ and whoever the hell else with a cell phone that can tweet out, "Hey, LeBron just went into this so-and-so strip club," or whatever it might be. And there's no escape.
You know, I've heard that about Jordan growing up. You know, I always heard that he wasn't very personable outside of the game. But to be honest, me watching him growing up, I didn't care about that. You know, his game was everything to me. I wasn't trying to look up to him as far as outside of the game of basketball. You know, back then that wasn't really seen by anybody. I think Jordan, we point the finger at Jordan because we have documentaries like right now. But if you think of Barkley, Ewing, Chamberlain, all those players, they're all in the same boat. It's just they're not being put on a dock right now, if that makes sense.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned Ewing, because he was one of the focal points of last night's episodes, and those Knicks teams that battled and battled and battled, but always came up just a little bit short. And it reliving it, you know, I was never a Knicks fan. And in fact, whenever they were playing the Pacers, I was always cheering more for the Pacers because I liked Reggie Miller. But seeing their heartache year after year after year just unfolding on that documentary really makes you kind of feel for the Knicks and their fans. And then to think how their franchise is today, it's like, man, that is a franchise that's been beaten for years.
Yeah.
And, you know, I didn't know. I mean, I knew Isaiah Thomas was kind of like the bad guy or whatever. I mean, he was growing up, but I didn't know they hated him like that. Like when they talked about how none of them was going to play on the dream team if he was going to play and this and that. I didn't realize he was that big of a guy as far as everybody hated him. It wasn't just Jordan.
Yeah. Yeah. Apparently, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson didn't want to play with him either. And he rubbed the whole league the wrong way, I guess.
I didn't know that. I mean, I knew he was great and all this, but I never knew that it was that big of an issue. I guess so. And Jordan still talks about hating him.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
What did you guys think about the gambling that was mentioned?
To me, it was another one of those things that was just blown out of proportion. He's a competitive guy, and gambling is a sort of competitive thing to do. Even if you're just gambling against yourself in a game of golf or something like that, where you control the outcome, or if he was in a casino and playing blackjack or whatever it might be. I think for a guy like that, it's not uncommon for him to enjoy that type of thing. It's what drives his competitive nature, and he gets a thrill out of it. And let's be honest, he was a millionaire, so he wasn't hurting for the money. And so what if he lost a few grand or maybe even 100 grand? He was making so much money back then, and I'm sure he still is now, that it was no sweat off his back. And it was just one of those things that the media picked up on, and everyone's got to have something that's wrong with them. And that was Jordan's thing.
Dude, he's making money. Think about every school that wears the jump man, every basketball team, every football team, every Jordan shoe ever sold. People wait in line still to this day to get Jordans. I mean, dude, this guy is going to make, he'll never, I mean, even his kids and his grandkids, he'll make money for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
All because of what he set in place. And like, I thought that was cool when he was talking about the shoes and how he liked Adidas. And then back then, Adidas and Converse were the big deal. And he kind of took that leap into Nike. And I didn't know that Nike was a big running shoe. But when he started talking about, I mean, because all I know was Nikes. That's all I ever wanted. I wanted the Jordans. I wanted the Deons. They were always Nike. So I didn't know that Nike wasn't a big brand until Jordan came along. That's crazy to hear.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. Back in the day, Converse were the big shoe, and then Jordan came along and basically made Nike what it is today.
His agent said that they wanted to sell $3 million worth of shoes within 4 years. In the first year that Jordan was with the Nike brand, $126 million.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
He gambled with his entire career. He gambled with his life. It makes sense that he would gamble a little bit. Imagine if the NBA treated him like the way the MLB treats Pete Rose.
Yeah.
Imagine if Michael Jordan was blackballed from basketball. He was banned from the Hall of Fame. His number wasn't retired. You couldn't find a Jordan jersey. That would be fucking crazy.
Yeah, it sure would. Speaking of the shoes, whenever he played in Madison Square Garden for what he thought would be his last time, he went back and wore the Jordan 1s. And the second I saw him put on those shoes, I thought, man, I would not want to play basketball in those shoes. And it's funny because he, of course, later on at the end of the game said that his feet were just bleeding and they hurt so bad. And if you know anything about those shoes, they're cool looking, but I would not want to try to run around and play basketball in those.
They're kind of like skateboard shoes. They're just straight flat on the
Yep. Yep. And then Jordan even goes to say that the innovation in shoes in the 15 years or however long since that shoe came out in 1998 when he was playing that game, the innovation in that time was huge. And I can only imagine what the innovation has been since then.
What did you guys think about the tribute to Kobe? That kind of came out of nowhere for me. I didn't expect it in this documentary, but I really appreciated it.
Yeah, same. Absolutely. You could tell that they added that in after the fact, which I totally understand. He's a huge icon in the sport. And essentially, as Kobe said, without MJ, there is no Kobe. And that was a really cool tribute to see.
I like how everybody was talking about Kobe, though, on the bench. Like, you could tell he was like a force to be reckoned with. Like, you don't all talk about one player like that unless you're just a beast. So that just showed Kobe coming up. They knew he was going to be one of the best.
Yep.
Yeah, everybody trash talking Kobe, and then they had the realization of like, oh, he's for real. This guy's here to stay. He's a good, because he was coming out of high school. He was some kid that was coming out of high school. That wasn't a common thing at that time. Onesies and twosies had done it, but they weren't the mega stars that Kobe was projected to be.
Yep.
Kobe came and he delivered.
Little Laker kid.
Mhm.
Crazy.
What'd you guys think about the happenings in the NFL this week? I know, Justin, your family probably had some opinions about the new quarterback signing there in Dallas.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming. I mean, I didn't see Dalton. That's just weird. I don't. That's not a Jerry Jones pick, and that's weird to me. And I think the only reason they did it was to get Dak on his high horse or off his high horse and sign that. I think that's basically he just threw away those millions of dollars to get Dak to sign. I don't think it was more than that. I don't see him playing in Dallas. I don't know. It's just weird. The whole situation was weird to me.
Yeah, you know it's a weird week in sports when the Red Rocket is the biggest headline of the week. When
Yeah.
Andy Dalton is news than it is. But I think that there is some significance to it. I think, like you said, Justin, it is to humble Dak a little bit, because right now Dak is refusing to sign his franchise tag, refusing to sign it. So that's threatening that he might not play this year. So this is Jerry Jones putting that band-aid. This is a $6-7 million band-aid, whatever it is that he's paying Andy Dalton this year,
I
to
think
make sure that he has a starting quarterback. And you know what? If Dak isn't going to play, guess what? Andy Dalton would be pretty damn good with that offense.
Yep. He's been to the playoffs. You can't say that about Dak.
that's the reason he went Dalton instead of Cam Newton. He knew that he wanted to put Dak in that situation, but he couldn't afford to pay Cam. He could, you know, Red Rocket was kind of in that safe zone, I guess you would say, as far as money goes.
Well, and it takes the leverage away from Dak. Dak, up until this point, was like, okay, well, if you don't pay me what I want to get paid, who you going to put in there? Go ahead and name a Cowboys. Zach, we were talking about getting a new soundboard before we come on. We got to have one for crickets. I want the cricket noise, because when I want to hear about the backup quarterback for the Cowboys last year, crickets, because nobody knows who it was, because it was a nobody. This year, your backup quarterback is a starter around the league at most any other team. Andy Dalton, he could come in, he could run an NFL offense, and you don't have to worry about that. So that is significant. If Dak doesn't play this year, guess what? He's definitely not going to be with the Cowboys next year. Jerry isn't stupid. He only did 1 year with Andy Dalton. If Dak doesn't play, guess what? We're cutting ties with you. If Dalton plays and he plays well, then we get to extend you. If he plays and he sucks, guess what? There's a quarterback up in Green Bay who's not too happy that could probably come down and captain the ship in the Big D.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great plan for Jerry, in my opinion. It's a win-win, honestly. If Dak fire lit under his ass and he actually signs the deal and plays well, then you had a backup plan that you didn't need to use. And if Dak wants to still be a baby, then you don't have to meet his demands, and you can play Andy Dalton and he will play well for you. Like I said, Andy Dalton's been to the playoffs. Can't say that about Dak Prescott.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not the while we're still on football. Did y'all watch the special on Alex Smith 11 that was on
Nope.
this week?
Ooh, that leg.
That was
Eesh.
bad.
It still looks like it's mangled.
Oh God! But I don't know if y'all read the similarities between him and Joe Theismann. But
I glanced over it, but if you've got it there in front of you, go ahead.
Okay, force. They had the exact same injury, broken right tibia and fibia. It happened November 18th. Theismann was in 1985, and his was 2018. They both happened with the Redskins. They both happened in Washington, D.C. They both happened on the 39-yard line. The final score for both games was 23-21. Hold on, it gets better. They were both caused by three-time Defensive Player of the Year. One was Lawrence Taylor, the other was J.J. Watt. And both times, the Pro Bowl left tackle, Joe Jacoby, was off the field, and Theismann and Trent Williams was off the field due to injury in Alex Smith.
Jeez.
That is eerie, dude.
That's very, very weird. The similarities in sports are sometimes insane, and that is one of those it's unquestionably weird. Um, one of the big takeaways that I have from this week and that signing for Dalton to the Cowboys in general is I told you he would not go to New England. Whenever Zach texted and broke the news, that was my immediate response was I told you he wasn't going to be in New England because I've been thinking about it. I've had some time to reflect. We're post draft now. We are sitting here looking at the roster and Jared Stidham is still slotted in as our QB1. So I've got to go in expecting that that's going to be the guy now. So I'm thinking about it. I'm looking back at Auburn. He did okay. Gus Malzahn says that he's a winner. He's able to pick up on an offense, but they didn't play him right because they wanted to have a more run-heavy attack in Auburn. This guy is better at passing. He's better at standing in the pocket and finding an open guy. He's got a quick release. There was a certain guy in New England that had a quick release that had a pretty decent career. I don't know if you've heard of him. His name's Tom Brady. Had a great release. Jared Stidham has a quick release. I'm not saying he's going to be the next Tom Brady, but I'm saying that he's going to be serviceable. I'm coming around on the kid.
Seems like he almost kind of fits into Belichick's system.
And that's what I'm getting at. If Belichick didn't go and draft, he didn't go and get Jalen Hurts. He didn't move up to get Jordan Love. He didn't go and get anybody up even higher up, like commit career suicide and get Tua, or even worse, go all the way up to number 1 and get Burrow. He didn't. He sat back. Remember, Stidham was a 4th round draft pick in his own right. It's not like he's some scrub that was just picked up off the street. He sat a year behind Tom Brady. He learned the playbook. He learned the ropes. He learned how to carry himself as an NFL player without the spotlight on him. Now he can move into that next level of his career where he has more expectation.
Yep. And in Bill's world, he sets you up for success, and then if you perform, you get to keep your job. If not, he moves on.
Yep.
And you got to think, last season he was running the practices. He was running the practice squad, so he was playing against the Patriots' number 1 defense. Patriots defense last season was pretty damn good.
Yep. It'll be interesting.
That's true. Did y'all see that stuff that I sent you today? Just here recently about Cam Newton.
No, what was it you were talking about with that?
They were talking about him, a possibility of him being back up to Matt Ryan.
Man, I don't know if I would want to pay Cam whatever he wants to be paid just to sit on my bench.
Well, I think if they did it, they would be a package thing. It wouldn't. I think they would try to find ways to get them both on the field. But the reason they said it is because of Winston, going behind
Drew Brees.
Yeah, I was trying to think where Winston went. But they said it. I mean, if you think about it, it would be a crazy move. But I mean, who's offering Cam right now?
I don't know. I've also heard that Cam won't sign a deal that puts him in a backup position.
All right. Eventually, though, it's either like, do you want to play backup or do you want to sit at home?
Right.
And maybe he's willing to sit at home and wait because guess what, guys? It may be grim. It may be a bad outlook, but you mentioned Alex Smith. Things like that happen. Injuries happen. So is Cam just going to hedge his bet and sit out and wait and keep his options open so that when name your quarterback gets taken out in week 3, Cam Newton's phone suddenly becomes a very popular phone number?
Yeah, and that might not be a bad strategy because if you've been watching football for any length of time, you know that quarterbacks get hurt every year. It happens. And if he's available, why not?
Now, if he does take that approach, if he does sit out a year, does he risk being forgotten about? Does he risk becoming the next Colin Kaepernick?
No. Kaepernick was for a completely different reason. I mean, his was all, nobody wanted him on the team because they would suffer media consequences type thing. Cam could set out a year and still, I mean, he's still in his prime. How old is Cam? Like 28, 27?
I'm not sure on the age. Jamie, if you want to go ahead and fact check that for us. Okay. Yep. Working on it over here.
You got it.
But no, I think if he sets out,
He's 30.
yeah, I mean, he's still got a lot of football left. Look at all these guys like you got Tom Brady playing, you got Aaron Rodgers playing that are in their mid to high 30s. Cam Newton's in a good spot. He don't need the money right now, like y'all said. He could possibly sit out a year, but he's just too good for that to happen. A lot of people are waiting too on, like, I know, for example, I can just speak from Atlanta, but we're waiting until June until the True Font money frees up. Then we have money to sign more people. We can't sign nobody else until that money from True Font frees up. And a lot of other teams are waiting on stuff like that too. They've let people go, but that money's still on their cap space, and they're waiting on that to free up before they can go out and spend the money that Cam Newton's asking for. So I think that's why it hasn't happened already.
Now, and as a Falcons fan, you're sitting there looking at your roster, you're looking at your team going into the season. Would you rather have Cam Newton to come in to maybe be on some of these special packages if you have this luxury, say, bring him in, or would you rather have somebody like Clowney, Jadeveon Clowney, still out there as a free agent that could go anywhere?
I'd definitely rather have Clowney. I mean, our offense, we have 11 first-round draft picks as our offense, which is crazy if you think about it. Our defensive line is actually decent. Now we got Marlon Davidson. If we could add some pass rush and some corner help, we're going to be sick next year. So I would definitely rather good defense. But if we got Cam, I wouldn't be hating. I'd probably be talking shit every day, like, we got Cam and Matt Ryan. You know what I mean? That'd give me a reason to come on here and talk trash. But if it was me running the team, I'd much rather have defense. Yes.
We'll see.
Yep. Something else that we will see is this weekend we have fights. They're actually happening.
Man, it's almost like it's gonna be canceled again at the last minute. I don't think it will, but for some reason in the back of my head I'm feeling like, man, I don't know. But I think the saving grace is that it's in Florida, and apparently Florida's cool with it. I mean, obviously there won't be fans and stuff like that, and they'll all be tested and stuff. But just from what happened last time to now, it's hard to believe that it's actually going to happen. And if it does happen, I think we're all going to be through the moon.
I agree. And, I like you said, that it's been on again, off again so much that I dare even say, should we analyze it? Should we break down this card, or should we just wait until the day before and then have a special bonus episode? Because it's been so up in the air, because we've talked about the idea of this card for the past 3 months now, and it's changed on us every friggin' week, it seems.
Well,
but we do have a card, so let's talk about it.
I was going to say, unless you have something else to talk about in the sports world.
No, let's talk about it, because there are some intriguing things. Some stuff is going to remain the same. Obviously Tony and Justin Gagey, that's going to be a make or break fight for both guys. And it's really a make or break fight for the entire division, because it's going to completely change the landscape of how things were, what Dana White wanted things to happen. So it's going to be interesting. If Tony goes in there and wins, like we all hope that he will, at least I do, then that sets up Tony and Habib later this year to unify the belts and all that stuff. That doesn't give enough time for a Conor Habib rematch by the end of the year. And that's what Dana White was banking on in 2020.
Which is an interesting thing for him to bank on, because unless he's just talking shit, Khabib has said he doesn't care about that fight. He I don't know if he's said that he doesn't want to make it, but I have no for sure he's said that he doesn't give a shit about Conor, because nothing has changed. I mean, it's not like Conor's went out there and become the greatest grappler in the world. So that fight hasn't changed to me. And I guess Dana is just chasing the big money fights.
He knows he is,
and that's all he can. But to me, I would throw Conor into matches that he could actually win and make money off of that, to make Conor look like the big superstar that they want him to be. If you throw him to Khabib again and he gets his ass mauled, you're right back to square one, where Conor goes off and retires and he does this and does that and this and that, and then you don't have a superstar again. If you give Conor fights that he can win, you keep building him up, and then maybe eventually, after Conor has beaten the rest of them, he can go back to Khabib.
Yeah, I mean, Khabib has so much to lose to take that Conor fight. Conor has nothing. He's winning regardless. And same thing with this Tony Ferguson fight. I don't think Ferguson should be even fighting outside of Khabib right now.
I agree.
If I was Ferguson, I would say no, and I would wait, and I would fight Khabib 3-4 months down the road. He's just got so much to lose, man. Anybody, it takes one shot. He could get injured, maybe not fight again, and we never see this fight that we've been waiting to see for years now.
If he loses, we're not going to see that fight.
No,
because
it's crazy.
Habib's only going to have a couple more fights, and then he's done. And if Tony's isn't next in line, we're not going to see it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And this is great for Gaethje, because if he goes out there and looks decent, even if he loses, he gets points.
Uh-huh.
I mean, if he loses, it's what we all expected. But if he goes out there and potentially beats Tony, holy shit. I mean, if you watch the fight against Cowboy and against Anthony Pettis, Gaethje is nothing to fuck with. This is not going to be just a cakewalk for Tony. Anything can happen. Just like Justin said, all it takes is one punch at the right time from the right person, and you're lights out. And this is a huge gamble for Tony. I respect him for continuing on and taking the fight. But man, I guess he just assumes he'll win, because if it goes south, I don't think he's going to get that shot with Khabib.
Well, when you're on a 12-fight win streak and you haven't lost since May of 2012, you've got confidence in your corner. And El Kukui has all the confidence in the world, because he doesn't just beat people, he mauls them.
Sure.
You mentioned Pettis and Cerrone. They're also fighting on this same card, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. What's funny is they're on the undercard too.
Yeah, which, they've both not had the best of times as of late. So I think they're both at the tail end of a career, and I could see a possible double retirement in this fight, something like that, or maybe just one of them calling it quits at the end of it, because what else do they have to prove? Pettis is a former champ. Cerrone's not going to get back in the championship picture.
Yeah. What else is there to do besides keep getting more CTE?
Yeah, Cowboy's got he's had what, like 90 pro fights or something crazy like that.
He's had like 57 in the UFC or some shit. If Wallow's still watching, I'm sure he can cite us the numbers right off the top of his head. He's the resident MMA expert around here. He's the host of the McDojo show, and they talk about all of the combat sports. So if you're interested in this segment, then you definitely need to go check them out.
Enough though. And like boxing, besides Mayweather, which he's done it like spread out like crazy. He's had 51 pro fights. But I mean, usually you'll have maybe 100 amateur fights, but then you only have like 20, 25 pro fights. I mean, he should have quit. Like last time he fought, I felt like he shouldn't have fought. Like he should have retired over a year ago. And teach, man. Be a teacher. Be a mentor. Take you a kid off the street that's got talent and back him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He holds all of the records for the most wins in UFC history, the most stops in UFC history, it's because he's had the most fights in UFC history.
Say you fight 400 times, you can hold every record.
Like Nolan Ryan is the all-time strikeout king. Everybody knows that for baseball. He's also the all-time walks king.
Yep, that's funny. Yeah, and I think you guys are right about Cowboy. I mean, I guess it's just his type of personality. He's wild. He's always doing extreme sport type stuff. He goes cave diving. He does insanely dangerous things. And so fighting to him, I think, is just another one of his wild ass hobbies that he likes to do. And I don't know when he'll stop. I mean, if it were me, I would rather stop while I'm a little bit ahead instead of being that old fart in the ring that just gets his ass whooped, which he's kind of almost becoming. I don't know. It sucks. It sucks to see a guy that MMA fans have revered for so long turn into this kind of just washed up guy who is not going to win.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to move on with the card,
Sure, go ahead.
Going into the main card, Greg Hardy is fighting again. I guess UFC is not done with him.
God.
He won his last fight, right, in the UFC.
Yeah,
that's why he's getting another one. Dana White, we've already talked about it. He's all about the money. If you win fights and sell tickets, he's going to get behind you. He doesn't give a fuck what you've done or what you do in your personal life. Case in point, look at John Jones. We've backed him in the octagon, but he's a shitty person, and you got to say the same. Different crime, but the same type of individual.
Yep, I completely agree. Next up is Jeremy Stevens and Calvin Qatar. Jeremy Stevens is an absolute psychopath. I don't know anything about this Calvin Qatar guy, so we'll see how that goes. And then the next fight up, this is going to be a hopefully just an absolute war. Francis Ngannou versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. And Rozenstruik might be a guy who people haven't heard of. He's a gigantic heavyweight, and he's kind of coming up. He's beaten Alistair Overeem, and he's kind of like taking that Ngannou route. He's just got absolutely insane power, and if he connects, it's lights out. And so these are just two giant men going at it, and we'll see who comes out on top.
Yeah, this will be that good heavyweight showdown that everybody likes to see. Two big gorillas just swinging on each other.
Yeah. This one is always a fan favorite. I hope that Francis comes out of it simply because I think he has a bit more of a following at this point, and I think he could potentially become a UFC superstar. But at the same time, if Rozenstruik beats Ngannou and keeps going, he could too. But I think Ngannou has a track record behind him. He's also beaten Alistair, and he had a shitty fight with Derek Lewis, but we've moved on past that, and hopefully he is trained up, and we'll see what they can do. This is the up and coming heavyweights proving themselves to the rest of the world, if you will.
Yep. And you got to cheer for that division to make a comeback, just like it's been doing in boxing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for the past, it's been DC and Stipe going back and forth, and that ship is almost kind of sailed.
Which, sidebar on that one, Stipe came out with some kind of tweet that I saw that hold on, let me find in my notes. BJ Penn said, I wanted to make sure I gave him credit. BJ Penn tweeted that Stipe said that there's no way that he's going to accept a fight during the coronavirus pandemic.
Smart.
Yeah.
And DC was on Ariel Helwani today begging him to sign a contract, saying, hey, look, all these other guys are fighting. WWE's back in business. Let's fight. DC only has a limited time left on the shelf, so he's trying to get this fight. He wants to go and settle it. Does it kind of feel like Stipe's ducking the fight, or is DC kind of using that as his catalyst to kind of just play the heel?
Definitely is. I think the dude's being smart. I mean, like they're sparring at our gym. They started this week. And I was telling y'all earlier, I'm not letting Trenton. I'm the president of the gym. I'm not letting my son get in there and trade spit and blows with somebody else right in front of them. And yeah, people they've called, they tell me I'm overreacting and all this shit. And I just told them, y'all, I'm not ready for it yet.
Yep.
USA Boxing's not even, like I said, they're not like the UFC, but they're not even starting fights yet. So I think the dude's being smart. If you don't need the money, what's the point in taking that risk?
Yep. And like you said, Brandon, to me, I think DC is trying to bait him into a fight.
Yeah.
DC doesn't have much time left. He wants to get this in, and if it's up to Stipe to fight or not, I err on the side of caution too, because there's no point. I mean, sure, everyone wants to see the trilogy and see who really is the better fighter, but there's in my opinion, in Stipe's eyes, there's no reason to. I mean, if you can't wait till this is all over, then we don't need to do it, because if you're trying to bait me into this, I don't have to bite.
We couldn't wait to make an interim belt for UFC 249.
Yeah.
That they couldn't wait on that championship because of this coronavirus. Habib being stranded in Russia. That's the same thing. It's the same root cause. The coronavirus is causing that.
Sure.
If you couldn't wait for him, why can't you wait for this? I say they make an interim heavyweight championship. Give DC another fight. The winner of this Ngannou fight, maybe. Fuck it.
I could see that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they by all means go for it. That wouldn't bother me at all. And I don't think Stipe would care either, because whenever the time comes, he'll fight that winner of that interim belt, and then we'll see.
Or could you see John stepping up to the challenge when needed? Step up to the heavyweight ranks to complete the trilogy fight for the interim heavyweight championship. That'd be one way to just go ahead and start anew.
Yeah.
Yeah. I watched the thing about John Jones yesterday. It was on TV about him getting arrested this last time.
Uh-huh.
Man, I love him. I think he's probably one of the greatest fighters in the world, but I'm tired of his shit too.
Yeah, absolutely. Zach and I have been longtime fans of John Jones. We used to go on the Locker Room Talk podcast, and our slogan was DC ain't shit, because we were John Jones. We were Team Jones. Now it's like, well, yeah, he's a good fighter, but I don't really want to be associated with him. I don't want to proclaim that I'm a John Jones fan anymore.
Right. Yeah. The picogram thing I could get behind, because the testing was just so stringent that those picograms weren't doing anything for him.
It was so weird. That whole thing was so strange.
Yeah. But there's literally no denying the fact that he's a piece of shit human, because he drove drunk. I mean, you can't just, there's no excuse there. There's no
Look, just because you drive drunk doesn't mean you're a piece of shit. I've done it a million times. I'm not a piece of shit. I don't do it anymore, but back when I was younger and more mature, I did it. And that's what John Jones is. He's immature.
Yeah.
The difference between me and you, I did too back in the day, but we wasn't making millions of dollars and the best at anything. We were the best at getting drunk at Halos for $6.
I'll ask you this. Did
bottomless cup, baby.
Did you do it while you had 4 daughters sitting at home that depended on you for a paycheck?
No.
Never.
Exactly.
5 kids, never. No.
Exactly. Moving on, the next fight up is the King of Cringe. Henry Cejudo is defending his bantamweight title against my favorite DC, Dominic Cruz.
Oh, I like that. My favorite DC.
I think this will be one hell of a fight.
I do too. And I don't know what the Vegas odds are, but I'm sure they've got Cejudo as the favorite going in. But I'm going to say Cruz walks away with the title.
God damn, I hope so.
I think we're going to see the title change hands, because he's primed and ready, And Cejudo's been talking so much shit for so long. Dominic's the guy that's going to be able to shut him up and put him in his place.
Yeah, I absolutely think so. Look for this to be a very good fight.
Fight of the night. I could see it happening.
Yeah. Cejudo's not a cakewalk. But Dominic's been around a long time. He had the belt himself for a good amount of time. Yeah, he's a vet. He knows how to fight. This is going to be a good one for sure. And like you, I hope that Dominic Cruz shuts this idiot up. I can't stand it. The whole he wants to have a intergender belt, and his antics are. I get what he's doing. He's hyping himself up because that's what you have to do these days. You have to be a social media whatever. But man, I can't stand it.
You have to be a showman, Zach. You have to always put on the clown makeup anytime you're doing anything. Look at Colby Covington. He had to put on the MAGA hat to become relevant, and he had to literally get his jaw broken and keep fighting through it for people to be like, oh yeah, he's also a good fighter. Yeah. He's also tough as nails, because all we knew him as was that loudmouth asshole for a long time.
Yep.
He's a tough guy. He's a hell of a fighter.
Right. And what pisses me off about that whole thing is it makes the UFC seem more like WWE. Yep. The more and more fighters that do this shit, and it's just an act, the more it feels like we're just watching UFC's version of Raw.
Zach, we've been doing this podcast now for almost 2 years. I remember early on, we had an episode where we compared the WWE to the UFC. And this was before Ronda Rousey. This was before a lot of that other stuff. This was, way back when they were just talking shit. We had Conor McGregor throwing dollies through bus windows and stuff like that. Now look at it. It's even more so. And the fact that it's on ESPN, and the fact that they're trying to legitimize the sports side of it, yet they're allowing the personal side of it and the showman side of it go a completely different route.
Yeah. And in my opinion, you can thank Conor for that. Whether it's a good or bad thing, he basically made his living off of, one, being good in the ring, and two, having the most ridiculous, outlandish personality in and out of the ring and shit talking and all that stuff. And people see that and say, okay, well, that's the gold standard of making it, and I want to be that guy. So that's what I have to do.
Yep. And let's see, that's probably the co-main, right? With Cejudo and
yep. And then last but not least is Tony and Gaethje, and boy, is that the big question mark. If of course Khabib and Tony is a question mark, but so is this one, in my opinion.
Yeah. And like Justin said, Tony and the UFC are playing with fire, because I think now there's so much mystique and so much history behind the Tony and Khabib fight that it is becoming a big money draw. Mm-hmm. Everyone now wants to see it. It is desirable. So if they don't meet, if that fight never happens, that's a huge blow, a huge financial loss. And they're putting that in danger by having this Gaethje fight, because if Gaethje wins, then all that goes away. Yeah. We started talking tonight about Michael Jordan, about how he gambled on his career with Nike. And, it leads up into the UFC and Tony Ferguson gambling on this fight, saying, all right, Tony, if we want to make this fight with Khabib happen, you have to win again. You have to win the belt that was never taken from you again. You never got beat for that interim title. You tripped over a cable, and we just gave the belt to somebody else. You've got to win that same belt again, and then we'll give you Khabib.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, if I were Tony, I would have the fucking biggest chip on my shoulder to UFC brass. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what it is about the UFC in their whole deal of having a shit ton of talented fighters that they do not promote. Amanda Nunes, Tyron Woodley, Tony Ferguson. They're all amazingly talented, and MMA fans know them. Maybe even some casuals know them, but they're not superstars. And I think they all deserve to be among a bunch of others. And for whatever reason, the UFC, on certain people, they just do not promote them at all. And I don't get it.
You know the scene in Pulp Fiction where John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson are in the apartments, drinking the big kahuna, or eating the big kahuna burger, drinking the soda. And then he asks, what does Marcellus Wallace look like? What does Tony Ferguson look like? Does he look like a bitch? Then why are you trying to fuck him like a bitch, Dana White?
Mhm.
I don't know, man. I do not know. He's a bit of a weirdo, let's say. I mean, he's an interesting guy. He's got a unique personality. He strikes me as a guy who's not very into the limelight kind of deal. Absolutely amazing fighter. But maybe the UFC views him as not a very marketable person, and they just said, you know what, we just can't make that happen, so we're just not going to even try. And I think that's a weird thing to do, because in the case of Conor, he wasn't just a shit talker. He went out there and performed in the ring. And I think Tony could do just that. He might not be a shit talker, but what matters is his performance. And up until now, Tony has always performed. So in my opinion, they really missed the ball on Tony.
Yeah, I agree. They really did drop the ball. He's been a star since he won the Ultimate Fighter, but they never utilized him properly. Man, that it is what it is, though.
Yeah, he's almost like the Scottie Pippen of UFC.
Mhm.
Absolutely talented, but was always second chair.
You know, it's cool that Scottie Pippen's in NBA 2K. You know, I told you guys I got the Game Pass and all this stuff, so now I'm back playing on Xbox and playing 2K, and I'm going through my career mode, and it was cool to see Scottie pop up in there, talking about, you know, we've seen them all in their glory and stuff like that, and he was talking about his humble beginnings as basically an undrafted guy coming up, not really known, and it shows that some of these guys they come from absolute nothingness to be great.
Yep. Not everyone's the first round draft pick and the this and that and the other. A lot of people work for it and eventually get to that level through nothing but hard work. There's no hype. There's no expectation. It's just they've proven to you that they are that good.
It's got drafted in my career, and I'm about to start my summer league games or whatever. I went through the combine and got drafted.
Who are you playing for?
The Bucks. I got drafted to the Bucks.
Nice.
What Zach said made a lot of sense. And, you know, my guy, I'm a center. And I'm going in with the mindset of I want to block shots, play solid defense, get rebounds, you know, poke the ball out whenever I get a chance, when I've got a big dumb center that's got the ball on the top of the 3-point lines or whatever. Knock that ball loose, maybe get a good turnover for my team, throw it out to some of the playmakers, some of the superstar talent that we happen to have, and let them do all the scoring. I'll put up my 10 points a game, but I'll try to get 15 rebounds and 10 blocks.
Yeah. Have you checked out the neighborhood yet?
No, I haven't. I have to get to, I guess, the start of my NBA career.
Sure. Yeah.
I haven't completed the whole story yet, but once I do, that's something that I'm excited for, because I can go and hang out with you guys on there, right?
Yep. Yeah, we can play street ball with people. Of course, you can go shopping and you can do all kinds of ridiculous stuff. It's a big world that they've put into a basketball game, and it's unique in that aspect where there's a lot more to do than just play your basketball. You can do a whole bunch of other stuff.
So if we were to say lay down like a 3-on-3 challenge, like the guys from the Nest versus you and whatever trio you can assemble. We could do stuff like that.
Yeah, but we're way, way off where we need to be. Those guys on the courts are in their 90s.
No, I'm saying like us, we can challenge other Nest people, like other people that are listening to our show that like our podcast that want to play against us. I'm not saying we go and challenge, the team that's at the top of the leaderboards, because obviously we're going to get crushed.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to find any in the 70s. I was up there. I was at like a 92, and I accidentally deleted my career. So I'm where you are now, Brandon. I'm starting over. I'm in my summer league games, and it sucks because I had the same dude for like a year.
Now, what kind of builds do you guys go with? I obviously went with a center. I'm 7 foot tall, but I got the longest wingspan that I could get because I wanted to be able to snatch up all those rebounds and those loose balls. What did you guys go with?
I went with my own stuff, except for my weight, of course, because I don't go that big. But I went with my height and my reach, and I'm a typical point guard in the NBA as far as my height and stuff goes. So
so you play the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went with like a 6'6" forward, small forward. And I try to drive to the lane, score, maybe do some rebounding. That's about it. I don't know if that was necessarily the best choice. It's kind of hard to gauge what you should do until you play the game for an extended period of time, because at least whenever I started out, and this is just part of the game, but when you start out, you're trash basically, and it's hard for your player to get things going. But it's a slow build of your guy gets a little bit better, you get a few more points, and you can add them up to boost your skills. But it seems like a lot of the like high level people or whatever are almost pure shooters, and the thing to do in the game is shoot 3-pointers. But I don't know, that's kind of boring to me in a way. I like dunks. I like driving. I don't necessarily, it's in game. I don't like just sitting back and shooting threes all the time. So
I'm a slasher too. I don't stand back and shoot. I'm a drive first.
Right.
Drive and dish or drive and dunk, whichever's open.
See, and I'm playing that low post. So we are going to be a dominant team because you guys are going to be cutting to the rim. I'll be playing low post. I'll give that quick little give and go to you. If you guys have to kick out, I'll kick it out to you. You can pop that shot. I'll get the rebound. We've got it figured out. We got this.
That's fun.
We'll run that triangle that they ran in Chicago.
Yeah, there you go.
I was going to tell you before, you got something else on the NBA, Zach?
No. I was just going to talk about Game Pass. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't know if y'all saw this or not, but Tennessee Vols the last 3 or 4 days have recruited like any football team I've ever seen in my life. We are at number 2 in recruiting right now, and we have 2 more 4 and 5 stars that are set to announce on, I think it's May 10th.
Is that for the 2020 recruiting class or 2021?
2021.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah,
we are second behind Ohio State.
Wow.
And I just wanted to bring it up. We're never that high. So
yeah, that's huge.
To see that this soon, it's just like, golly.
What do you think is driving those 4 and 5 star recruits to come to Tennessee over, say, Alabama or an Ohio State or Auburn or LSU?
I'll tell you what I think it is. I think it's they've seen from Jeremy Pruitt the promises of a good system, a good team for years to come. And right now, they've got something that Ohio State, that Alabama, that Georgia can't offer: playing time.
No, and if you think about it, we lost our first few games. We haven't lost a game in we've won like 10 straight, which is crazy to think about. But Pruitt was the recruiter for Alabama. And how long have they been good? So we basically hired a recruiter as our coach. And the last 2 or 3 4 and 5 stars we got have been out of Georgia, Alabama, and Florida.
So he's stealing from enemy grounds. He's
picking all around everywhere but inside of Tennessee because he knows he can land those Tennessee guys anyway.
Yeah, that's what I kind of thought too. I get that mindset from a player's perspective of you're the man. Everyone's coming after you. Everyone's giving you scholarships. And now you get to decide, do I want to be second, third, fourth string at a prestigious college and maybe get a chance to play my junior or senior year? Or do I want to go somewhere where I am the man and we'll see what we can do?
I can start as a freshman, maybe a sophomore, worst case scenario.
Yep.
Tennessee used to be dominant, man. They're coming back.
Yep. And I think Pruitt's going to bring him back to the glory days. The old joke from a lot of Tennessee Vols fans, shout out to my boy Joey Hale, is this is our year at the beginning of every football season. Well, we're getting close to it being Tennessee's year.
Yep. If you keep saying it, maybe eventually one year it'll be true.
Yeah. You tell yourself the lie long enough, eventually it becomes the truth. Something like that.
And when it does, you go around telling everybody, I told y'all it was this.
I've been telling you for years. Yep, exactly.
I just wanted to talk about Game Pass a little bit since you've gotten it recently.
Sure.
To me, I think that was an absolutely great idea by Microsoft. A lot of things are going subscription based. That's how people are getting their content. I think it's a very smart idea, especially because they bundled it with Xbox Live. So it's not an addition. It's just kind of all bundled in. And for me, a lot of the games on there, I never would have gone out of my way to rent at Redbox, and I probably wouldn't have bought them. But since they're there waiting for me to download them, hey, screw it. I'll try it out. And if it sucks, I delete it and I'm done with it. I really love it. And they're putting huge titles on it. Obviously, NBA 2K is on there. It's a little late, but Red Dead Redemption 2 is coming soon. So, they have huge games on it, and you can't beat the price for what you get.
Yeah, it's funny. I played through Red Dead twice on PlayStation. I may have to go back and play through it again on Xbox so I can get those achievements because it's all about that digital dick score when it comes to Xbox. You got to get that gamer score up. So got to go back and get all those achievements again, guys. So if I disappear and only talk in a Western accent for the next few months, you'll know why.
Hey, I'm absolutely down to meet you at the Elysian Pool for some.
You guys got anything else you want to add?
I'm good.
All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. We've had a steady number of listeners this entire time. That's awesome. I love seeing that number just continue to grow. Thank you for your support. If you would like to go and support us further, we have a new shirt available on our Nest podcast shop, and that can be found at shop.spreadshirt.com/nest. The new shirt is NBA Jam inspired, and it's got the beautiful pictures of our ugly mugs smeared across it as players with our own stats and how we would fare on the basketball court. And I might say that I think it showcases that we were all pretty athletic in our day. Guys, go out, be cool, stay safe. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Thanks for listening. New episodes are recorded every week.